As we saw in the previous capsule, the number one thing that a coach needs to teach to his clients is how to perform a repetition. That is the most important thing to teach your client. If you don't get that right, you can use the best training methods, the most complex advanced training programs, it will give you only submaximum gains, suboptimal gains. Now in this capsule, I will give you a brief outline of the differences in repetition style depending on your goal. Because if your goal is just maximum muscle growth, you will not perform the repetition the same way as if your goal is an increase in strength or performance. For example, if my goal is to build maximum muscle mass, my objective is to put the muscles under maximum tension at every point in the range of motion. Whereas if I'm lifting for strength or performance, my goal is to maximize that performance or force output during the rep. So the main difference is that when training for strength or performance, I will try to accelerate during the lifting portion as much as I can. Force equals mass times acceleration. So if my goal is to get stronger to increase force, I will always try to accelerate the weight as much as possible to get that A in mass times acceleration as high as possible. Of course, if the weight is heavy, it won't move really fast, but I'm always trying to accelerate the weight as much as possible. Furthermore, if I'm an athlete, I actually want to train myself to use the stretch reflex at the bottom. So rapid switch from eccentric to concentric. So when I reach the bottom, I'm trying to switch direction as fast as possible using that stretch reflex. Now, if I'm training for maximum muscle mass, I would actually do the opposite. Because if I'm training to accelerate as much as possible, what happens is that I'm creating momentum in the first part of a range of motion. And as a result, in the later stage of the rep, I'm actually pushing with less strength. I'm creating less tension in the muscle. Remember this one thing, your body hates you, but it also really likes you. It hates you because it doesn't care that you're trying to get bigger chest to impress people at the beach. All it knows is that there's a big-ass weight trying to kill you, and in the interest of survival, you want to get that off your chest as fast as possible. And when you're lifting a weight, you always, or do any type of action, the body will always look for the most economical way of doing things. So if I'm producing lots of acceleration at the start, the body will use that momentum to relax the muscle contraction, so it spends less resources. It can do that because the acceleration created momentum, meaning the weight moves on by itself. I don't have to continue to push it hard for it to go up. So my body, wanting to use less energy, will learn to stop contracting my muscle hard, which is fine if my goal is to build explosiveness, but if my goal is to overload those muscles as much as possible to make them grow as large as possible, it's a mistake. So when I'm lifting for maximum size, I do not want to try to accelerate the weight. I want to push it so that my muscle produce maximum tension every inch of every rep. I don't want to go slow, but I'm not trying to throw that weight up either. I want to feel the muscle contraction every single inch of every single rep. That's how you should be doing the lifting portion when you're lifting for mass. When I'm trying to get stronger or more powerful, I'm trying to accelerate as much as possible. I'm trying to kill that barbell. But when I'm trying to build muscle, I want to create tension in the muscle when I'm lifting. Basically, I'm squeezing my muscle, I'm posing my muscle against resistance. I'm not lifting a weight. So that's the lifting portion. Now, earlier I mentioned about the transition from lowering to lifting. When I'm lifting for strength or power, I want a rapid switch using the stretch reflex to amplify the force production. When I'm lifting for muscle mass, I want to avoid using the stretch reflex, because if I use a stretch reflex, then that's a portion of the movement where the muscle is actually not firing maximally. Remember, your body hates you. It wants to use the least amount of resources as it can. So if you're using the stretch reflex, your body will take that opportunity to produce less force with the muscle, conserve its energy. So when I'm lifting for maximum size, I have to force myself to hold the stretch position for 1 second, then lift, so that the stretch reflex cannot compensate and take over the muscle contraction. So I'm lifting a curl, I'm pausing at the bottom, I'm contracting, I'm not using the stretch reflex here. So that's the two main differences between lifting for performance, rapid switch, explosive lifting, and building muscle, holding the stretch, and contracting the muscle against resistance. Of course, I'm using less weight. I'm using less weight because each rep is more demanding, because I'm flexing those muscles every single part of the range of motion, which is why it's more effective for building muscle mass than strength. My goal is not to use small weights. I'm still trying to get stronger and stronger, but use a repetition style that puts the tension on the muscles instead of the tendons, the joints, or other supporting muscle group. So that's the first main difference if you are training for strength and power, or if you're training for size and muscle mass.